What's going on, guys? Today we are starting a new series reviewing NBA GMs draft history. And the first GM that we are looking at is Rafael Stone, who is the general manager of the Houston Rockets. He was hired on October 15th, 2020, about a month before the 2020 NBA draft. And that's the draft that we will start with. And we will move until we, get to present day, the 2024 NBA draft. So in the 2020 draft, the Rockets did not have many picks at all. And so mostly with 2020, we're going to be focusing on a series of trades that Rafael Stone did on draft day. The first of which is he traded for the rights of Isaiah Stewart, along with getting Trevor Ariza and a 2021 first-round pick, and he gave up Robert Covington to the Trailblazers. And this was officially finalized on November 22nd. Then, technically, a couple of days later, he took the draft rights of Isaiah Stewart and Trevor Ariza, which he had just gotten from the Trailblazers, and put in also a future second-round pick, which he traded to the Pistons, and he got Christian Wood, a protected first-round pick, which we'll get to later, and a 2021 second-rounder. He pretty much immediately turned around that 2021 second-rounder, added some cash considerations, and traded that to the Kings to get back Houston's second-round pick in the 2020 draft, which was used on KJ Martin. So after the 2020 draft, the Rockets pretty much end up with Christian Wood, a protected first-round pick, and KJ Martin or Kenyon Martin Jr., and they had to give up Robert Covington and a future second-round pick. So now we move to the 2021 draft, where after having traded James Harden in January of 2021, the Rockets did not get off to a good start and rightfully looked to tank, and they finished with the worst record in the league. So they had a good chance, as good a chance as any team, to get the first pick. They didn't get the first pick, but at least they got the second pick, and they went with Jalen Green. Now, I think Jalen Green is a bit of a polarizing player at this point in his NBA career. He did have a really hot stretch last year where he seemed to show a lot of promise into the player he might end up becoming, where he was a much more efficient player in the month of March, where he really took off. And in the month of March, Jalen Green became a guy who, teams could definitely build around. He averaged 28 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. His plus-minus was the best of his career, or definitely in 2024, rather, plus 15. And he became an efficient scorer, which has been something that has plagued Jalen Green throughout his career. In the month of March, he shot 49% from the field and 40% from the three-point line. And his turnovers were not horrible. They were, I guess, better, but still not great. I guess really what I'm trying to get at is I'm still skeptical of Jalen Green. I understand why some people might think because of that month they are, all in on Jalen Green's future. But for me, that was just 1 month in a year where he continued to show question marks about his ability to be an efficient scorer. So I would not be surprised if Jalen Green ends up being a trade chip for the Rockets in the near future. But at the time, thought it was a decent pick. Personally, I probably would have gone with Jalen Suggs or Scotty Barnes. But we move on. So the 16th pick in the draft was their best pick, and they traded protected first rounders from Washington that they had, which I believe was from the Westbrook trade. Could be wrong. If somebody has that correct, please let me know in the comments. And then This is where that protected first from Detroit comes in. They took that as well and packaged with the pick from Washington, trade both those protected firsts to the Thunder, and were able to select Alperen Sengun with the 16th pick in the 2021 draft, which has turned out to be a great pick for the Rockets. Sengun has turned out to be one of the better young centers in the NBA, with his ability to not only score the ball, but more importantly, I would argue, pass the ball, make his teammates better, and joining, Sabonis and Jokic as these European centers who play as the hub, as a de facto point center for their team. And he's been great for the Rockets. Pick 23, they acquired this pick from the Robert Covington trade, and this ended up being Usman Garuba. Now, Usman Garuba did not pan out for the Rockets. One of the few picks in the Rafael Stone era that has not turned out well for the Rockets. He played in just over 100 games with the Rockets, 75 games in his second year, only getting 13 minutes per game. Didn't really get a lot of time with the Rockets, and they moved on rather quickly. I liked Garuba doing my draft analysis, but he just didn't pan out with the Rockets. We'll see if he latches onto a team after spending some time with the Warriors last season. Then with the 24th pick, they end up taking Josh Christopher. Now, the reason they had this draft pick is because they made a deal with the Bucks earlier that year, and they had traded they had traded PJ Tucker, Rodions Kurucs, and a 2022 first-round pick to the Milwaukee Bucks for DJ Augustin, DJ Wilson, a 2023 first-round pick, and the option to swap their second-round pick for Milwaukee's first, which they did, and they selected Josh Christopher. Now, Josh Christopher got a little bit more playing time than Usman Garuba in his first 2 seasons. However, after 2 years with the Rockets, they decided to move on. Christopher spent the 23-24 season in the G League, and then this past summer had a good summer league stint with the Heat, which he was able to turn into a 2-way deal. Now we move in to the 2022 draft for the Rockets in Rafael Stone. The 2022 NBA draft for the Rockets is a continuation in many ways of the 2021 draft. Their first full year without James Harden, and they end up with the 3rd overall pick in this draft. They select Jabari Smith, and on draft night, or on draft day, there was a lot of people initially who thought Jabari Smith would be the first pick in the draft. Instead, the Magic go with Paolo Banchero, then Chet Holmgren, and then the Rockets end up with Jabari Smith, who's looked like a good player. We'll see if he can develop into being, a fringe all-star type player. Then the Rockets get the first pick from the James Harden trade, which is Tari Eason. And they get that pick at pick 17. And Tari Eason was hurt last season, but overall has had a good start to his career and looks like a good pick at pick 17 for Rafael Stone. Lastly, they end up picking Ty Washington at pick 29. And this pick they got because they traded Christian Wood to the Mavericks, and they ended up with pick number 26. In addition to pick number 26, they ended up getting Boban, Trey Burke, Marquez Chris, and Sterling Brown. So in many ways, it was a salary dump, multiple players from the Mavs who were looking to give Christian Wood an opportunity at their center spot. The Rockets then took pick 26 and flipped it to the Timberwolves for pick 29. and 2 second-round picks, one next year in 2025 and the following in 2027. And they used pick 29 on Ty Washington, who did not pan out for the Rockets. He's one of the few picks, I would say, over the era who has not panned out for Rafael Stone. And they moved on from him pretty quickly. So now we move ahead to the 2023 draft class, where, again, they're picking in the top 5. They did not have a good season again, but that was to be expected. They're a very young roster. They hadn't improved yet. And so they end up with the 4th pick after having one of the worst records in the league, the second worst, tied for second worst record, that is. And because they had the 4th pick, there was kind of a clear top 3 with Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, and Scoot Henderson. And most people, I think, had thought that the Thompson twins would go after that. There's maybe a little bit of question as to which Thompson twin, but they went with Amen. And he had a really good rookie season, especially after Alperen Sengun went down and he was able to get into more of that dunker spot on the offensive side. He's really got to improve as a three-point shooter. He shot 13% as a rookie, but he showcased a lot of other skills, including his defense and passing abilities, that will make him an NBA mainstay. So that looks like a good pick at number 4. Now, this is where things get interesting to me, as far as you have a general manager who does a good job at maneuvering. And at pick number 20, they selected Cam Whitmore, who is a guy who a lot of people thought would have gone in the lottery. And not only was that pick in and of itself really good, Cam Whitmore had a really solid rookie season, especially for somebody picked outside of the lottery. But it goes back to a couple of trades that Rafael Stone made to put himself in a position to go get a guy like Cam Whitmore. The first was that PJ Tucker trade, which we covered in the 2021 draft, which netted them a 2023 Milwaukee first rounder. Now that pick would have been pick 30, except for they traded Eric Gordon to the Clippers in exchange for John Wall, Danny Green, and the right to swap the Milwaukee first round pick with the Clippers first round pick. And that Clippers first round pick, you guessed it, ended up being at pick number 20, and that's how they ended up with Cam Whitmore. Now, they didn't have a second round pick in this year's in the 2023 draft, and that was because they traded it as part of the James Harden deal. Moving into the 2024 draft, they select at pick number 3 Reed Sheppard, and the fruits from the James Harden trade just continue to bear labor, or pay off rather, for, what am I saying? Well, you get what I'm trying to say, for the Rockets here, as they probably will continue to do so. And they get Reed Sheppard at pick number 3, who looked outstanding, looked like the best player in this year's draft at the Summer League. It's very early, so we'll have to see how this plays out. The one thing I really love about getting Reed Sheppard is I think it makes some other players on their roster expendable, in terms of what we've heard, the rumors that they're looking to go big game hunting, so they do have more trade chips available, having a guy like Reed Sheppard on a rookie contract. Now, their own pick, the 12th pick in this year's draft, unfortunately was traded pre-Rafael Stone. It was part of the Westbrook trade. So in the second round, Rafael Stone had made a few moves before the draft, and then he made one move during the draft. So before the draft, he had traded traded cash to the Nets for Sekou Doumbouya and Brooklyn's 2024 first rounder. They also, as part of the Dylan Brooks sign and trade, received 2 second round picks. Now, the way I see it, I'm not 100% certain, but the way I see it is that those 3 second round picks were used to be traded out for Steven Adams. So they got Steven Adams by maneuvering a bunch of second round picks, ones that they got for really not much, right? They got Dylan Brooks. They didn't give up much in that deal besides Josh Christopher. And they also they only gave up cash to the Nets to get that 2024 second round pick. So really good maneuvering from Rafael Stone again. And then with the pick they had in the second round, they took Pelle Larsson. They took the 44th pick. I don't know if that's who they would have took, I should say. And they shipped that out as part of a 3-team trade and got back AJ Griffin, who showed a lot of promise as a rookie. He was a first-round pick in the top 20 in 2022. And so clearly, in my estimation, Rafael Stone had placed some value on AJ Griffin, who he was not able to select in 2022 as he went one pick ahead of him. He did get Tari Eason, who looks like a good player. So I would guess he liked AJ Griffin in that class, thinks there's some talent that can be unearthed with him as a spot-up off-ball player who should fit in well in Houston, where they have a few guys who like to be on the ball. So overall, there's been, at this point, 4 real draft classes to evaluate from Rafael Stone. A lot more hits than misses for him with Houston. He looks like a really solid to really good general manager for Houston, who's positioned them really well through the draft. So if you guys could, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to get to all 30 GMs. If you're a fan of a team and you want to see your GM covered sooner than later, leave a comment. I will get to the comments sooner. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through it in sort of a random order. So we'll see how that goes. And tell a friend to subscribe to the channel, or at least check us out here. Jack Banks NBA. See you guys next time. Peace.